All right, let's dive in. Today, we are digging into one of the most mysterious and, frankly, one of the most important groups of living things on our planet. They're not plants, they're not animals, but they are absolutely everywhere. We're talking about the secret kingdom of fungi. So let's just start with that big question right off the bat. When you see a mushroom popping up out of the ground, what is it? I mean, for centuries, even scientists just kind of lumped them in with plants. But is that right? Well, the answer is a huge, definitive no. Fungi belong to a completely separate kingdom of life, and they're as different from plants as you and I are. And when you look at it side by side, the differences are just so clear. Plants make their own food, right? They soak up sunlight, do the whole photosynthesis thing. Fungi can't do that. They have to get their food from other sources, just like we do. And get this, their cell walls aren't made of the stuff you find in plants, cellulose. They're made of chitin, which is the exact same tough material that makes up the shells of insects and crabs. How wild is that? Now, to really understand fungi, you have to look past the mushroom, seriously. What we see popping up above the ground is just the tip of the iceberg. The real story, the main event, is happening in a hidden world, a massive, sprawling network right under our feet. And it all starts with these little guys, hyphae. Just think of them as these incredibly fine individual threads. They're the basic building blocks, branching out like tiny explorers, searching through the soil for something to eat. But, a single thread on its own isn't all that powerful. The magic really happens when thousands or millions or even billions of these hyphae start to weave themselves together, creating something so much bigger. And here it is. This is the true form of the fungus, the mycelium. This gigantic web-like network is the main body. It's the part that eats, it's the part that grows, and it lives completely hidden from view. A single one of these networks can connect an entire forest. In fact, there's a fungus in Oregon that covers almost 4 square miles, making it the largest known living thing on Earth. Period. Okay, so now that we know what a fungus actually is, let's talk about just how incredibly diverse this kingdom is. I mean, it is a huge family with some very famous members and millions of relatives we haven't even met yet. So far, we've identified and given names to over 144,000 different species of fungi. But the scientists who study them, they're called mycologists, they figure there could be millions more out there. We've barely, and I mean barely, scratched the surface of this amazing kingdom. Now, of all the ones we do know, they mostly fall into 3 main groups that you'll recognize. First, you've got mushrooms. Those are basically the fruit of that bigger mycelium designed to spread spores. Then you have molds, the fuzzy stuff on old bread. And finally, you have yeasts, which are these microscopic, single-celled workhorses. So how do all these different fungi actually survive? I mean, they can't make their own food, and they can't exactly hunt it down. Well, they've come up with a totally unique way of eating, one that makes them the most important recyclers on the entire planet. And this all goes back to that key word, heterotroph. Just like us, fungi have to get their energy from organic stuff. Most of them are what we call decomposers, breaking down dead plants and animals. Some, though, can be parasites, getting what they need from things that are still alive. This is so cool. Unlike animals, which digest food inside our bodies, fungi do it on the outside. The mycelium just pumps out these powerful enzymes that dissolve its food, whether that's a fallen log or an old strawberry, right there in the open. It turns it into this nutrient soup, and then they just soak it all up. They literally live inside their own food. So, how do they get around? Not with seeds, but with spores. These are tiny, microscopic reproductive cells. A single mushroom can release trillions of them into the air, and each and every one is capable of growing into a whole new mycelium if it happens to land in a good spot. Now, fungi aren't just some weird thing living out in the forest. They're deeply, deeply woven into our daily lives. They're both incredible helpers and sometimes pretty serious hazards. They're the classic frenemies. So let's start with the good guys. Fungi are responsible for some of our absolute favorite foods and some of our biggest medical miracles. Honestly, we rely on them way more than most people even realize. I mean, that fluffy bread you had this morning, that was thanks to yeast, a fungus that basically burps out carbon dioxide to make the dough rise. That sharp, tangy flavor in blue cheese, that comes from a special mold. And of course, a ton of mushrooms themselves are just flat out delicious. But maybe the most important fungal friend of all is Penicillium mold. Back in 1928, a scientist named Alexander Fleming came back to his famously messy lab and noticed something odd. A patch of mold was growing in one of his experiments, and all the bacteria around it were dead. That total accident led to penicillin, the very first antibiotic, which has saved, no exaggeration, millions and millions of lives. But, and you knew there was a but coming, there's a flip side. For all the amazing things they do, some fungi can be destructive, dangerous, and just a real pain. I mean, the same family of mold that gave us penicillin is also what turns your bread green. Fungi are responsible for huge crop failures that threaten our food supply. They cause really common infections like athlete's foot. And of course, the most dangerous part, some wild mushrooms are incredibly poisonous. And look, we have to be absolutely crystal clear about this. This is a non-negotiable safety warning. While lots of mushrooms are perfectly fine to eat, some of the deadliest ones in the world look terrifyingly similar to the safe ones. Do not guess. Mushroom identification is a job for experts and only experts. When in doubt, just leave it alone. So after all that, the good, the bad, what's the final call? Well, it's that even with the hazards, life on Earth as we know it simply could not exist without fungi. They are the planet's essential recyclers, the unsung heroes cleaning up the world. So let's just quickly recap the big takeaways here. 1, fungi are their own unique kingdom of life. 2, they are nature's cleanup crew, recycling nutrients so new life can grow. 3, their true body is that hidden web called mycelium. 4, they have a massive impact on our lives for better and for worse. And finally, 5, they're still one of the most diverse and mysterious groups of living things out there. And that leaves us with one final, pretty mind-blowing thought. If we manage to find world-changing antibiotics and create some of our favorite foods from the tiny, tiny fraction of fungi we actually know about, just imagine what other secrets are still out there. What new medicines, new materials, or new solutions to huge problems are just locked away, waiting in the millions of species we have yet to discover. The secret kingdom of fungi still has so much more to show us.